Hello there, and welcome to this extremely depressing episode where we'll be taking a deep dive into the cesspool of authoritarianism. Over the next little while, we'll be counting down the top 10 worst dictatorships in the world today, because apparently simply existing wasn't depressing enough. So buckle up, because we're about to embark on a journey through human rights abuses, political oppression, and a shocking lack of decent snacks. North Korea, the land of human rights violations and questionable haircuts. For decades, this hermit kingdom ruled by the ever-so-charming Kim Jong-un has been synonymous with oppression. Think about the most basic freedoms we often take for granted. Freedom of speech, gone. Freedom of religion, nope. Freedom to enjoy a delicious, non-government mandated sandwich? Absolutely not. And let's not forget the labor camps, a delightful little invention designed to punish anyone who dares to question the regime or perhaps just forgets to compliment Kim Jong-un's latest outfit. It's essentially a masterclass in how to crush the human spirit, one propaganda poster at a time. So yeah, North Korea, you rightfully earn your spot as the reigning champion of dystopia. Next up, we travel to the Horn of Africa, where Eritrea, a country roughly the size of Pennsylvania, is busy proving that size doesn't matter when it comes to human rights violations. This is a country where national service isn't just a year or two of your life, it's basically a lifetime commitment. Imagine being forced to serve in the military indefinitely with no end in sight. It's like a really messed up version of Groundhog Day. Only instead of reliving the same day over and over, you're stuck wearing the same uniform and taking orders from the same dictator.
In Eritrea, we are trapped in an endless cycle of oppression. National service is supposed to be temporary, but for us, it never ends. We are forced to serve indefinitely, with no hope of escape. Our lives are controlled by the government, and any attempt to speak out or resist is met with brutal punishment. Independent media? Forget about it. And if you're thinking about protesting these conditions, well, you better have a good lawyer, a really good hiding place, and a strong tolerance for torture.
Our next stop takes us to Syria, a country that's been ravaged by civil war and ruled by the iron fist of Bashar al-Assad. Imagine a country where the use of chemical weapons on your own citizens is just another Tuesday, where hospitals are considered legitimate military targets and schools are bombed with alarming regularity. That's Syria under Assad, folks.
Living in Syria is like being trapped in a horror movie that never ends. The constant fear of bombings, the threat of chemical attacks, and the brutal repression by the regime make everyday life unbearable. We are caught in a nightmare with no way out, and the world seems to have forgotten about us. Assad's regime is a stark reminder that sometimes the monsters aren't hiding under the bed or lurking in the shadows. They're in plain sight, clinging to power with a brutality that's both shocking and all too familiar.
Chapter 4. China, the surveillance state. Now let's turn our attention to China, a country that's rapidly becoming the poster child for technological authoritarianism. On the surface, China might seem like a shining example of economic progress and technological advancement. But scratch beneath the surface and you'll find a dystopian underbelly where Big Brother isn't just watching, he's taking notes, analyzing your data, and assigning you a social credit score based on your every move.
This is a country where facial recognition technology is used to track citizens' every move, where the internet is heavily censored, and where any form of dissent, even a whisper of criticism against the government, can land you in hot water, or worse, a re-education camp.
Chapter 5. Saudi Arabia. Reform with an iron fist. Next up, we're heading to Saudi Arabia, a country that's been trying to rebrand itself as a modern, reforming nation, while simultaneously clinging to its absolute monarchy and penchant for silencing dissent.
Yes, there have been some reforms in recent years. Women are now allowed to drive. Gasp. Cinemas have reopened. Shock. And there's even talk of diversifying the economy beyond oil. Hold on to your hats. But let's not get too carried away. Underneath this veneer of progress lies a harsh reality. The brutal murder of Jamal Khashoggi, a Saudi journalist who dared to criticize the crown prince, is a stark reminder that in Saudi Arabia, some things are better left unsaid.
Chapter 6. Iran Theocracy and Turmoil. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to enter the world of theocratic rule in Iran. Imagine a country where religious leaders hold ultimate power and where the laws are based on interpretations of ancient scriptures. In Iran, the government controls everything from the clothes you wear to the websites you visit. Want to criticize the government? Go ahead, but don't be surprised if you find yourself on the wrong side of a protest crackdown. Iran's regime is a stark reminder that when religion and politics become intertwined, the results can be suffocating, to say the least. Chapter 7. Myanmar, the coup that won't quit. Our journey through the world's worst dictatorships takes us next to Myanmar, a country that's been held hostage by its own military since a coup in 2021. Imagine waking up one morning to find out that your elected government has been overthrown, your rights have been stripped away, and your country is now being run by a bunch of generals who seem to have missed the memo about democracy being kind of a big deal. The situation in Myanmar is a tragic reminder that the fight for freedom and democracy is never truly over, and that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. Chapter 8. Turkmenistan, land of the unknown. Next, we travel to Turkmenistan, a country so isolated, so shrouded in secrecy that it makes North Korea look like a beacon of transparency. This is a land where the president, Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov, is more than just a leader. He's a cult of personality, a larger-than-life figure who's omnipresent in Turkmen society. His face adorns everything from billboards to bottles of vodka, because why not? In Turkmenistan, the media is state-controlled, the internet is heavily censored, and any form of dissent is met with swift and brutal retribution. And if you're thinking about visiting Turkmenistan to see this dystopian wonderland for yourself, good luck getting a visa. Chapter 9. Belarus, Europe's last dictatorship. Hold on to your potatoes because we're about to delve into the world of Alexander Lukashenko, the self-proclaimed last dictator in Europe, who's been ruling Belarus with an iron fist for almost 3 decades. This is a country where elections are about as fair and free as a game of Monopoly rigged by your banker, and where any form of dissent is met with the subtlety of a sledgehammer to a plate of pierogies. Lukashenko's regime is like that one neighbor who never mows their lawn, blasts polka music at all hours of the night, and calls the cops on you for playing your music too loud. And let's not forget the Ryanair Flight 4978 incident, where the Belarusian government forced a passenger plane to land so they could arrest a journalist who had the audacity to criticize Lukashenko. Chapter 10. Venezuela, from riches to rags. Our final stop on this whirlwind tour of authoritarianism takes us to Venezuela, a country that was once a beacon of prosperity in South America, but which has descended into economic ruin and political turmoil under the rule of Nicolas Maduro. Imagine a country where hyperinflation is so rampant that you need a wheelbarrow full of cash to buy a loaf of bread, where basic necessities like food, medicine, and toilet paper are in short supply. Maduro's regime is a cautionary tale about the dangers of corruption, incompetence, and clinging to power at all costs. So there you have it, the top 10 worst dictatorships in the world today. It's a sobering reminder that while we may enjoy the privileges of freedom and democracy, millions around the world are still struggling to break free from the chains of oppression. These rankings are, of course, subjective and based on a variety of factors, but one thing is clear. These regimes all share a fundamental disregard for human rights, a penchant for silencing dissent, and an unhealthy obsession with clinging to power at all costs. Stay informed, stay engaged, and never take your freedom for granted. Thank you for watching.